and we will now go into, it's 1 week to the NFL draft. How about that? 1 week to the NFL draft really kind of just came up on everyone here. We're going to go through a little bit of NFL draft things right now here on the show. Cam Ward, Ashton Genty, the Colorado guys. A lot of fun here. What a great job by our crew putting that graphic together as well here on a Thursday, 1 week before as we're recording this. Behind us, boy, we love having this monitor behind us, right, Alex? The NFL draft order, which has been set now for a few months, really at this rate is a coronation to Cam Ward being the first overall pick for the Tennessee Titans. So right now, if you're looking across the board on Cam Ward prices to go number one, your DraftKings is minus, making sure I have the right amount of zeros, 20,000.
Yep.
Minus 20,000 on Cam Ward to go number one. So the Wazoo Miami Incarnate Word Miami product is going to be the number one overall pick based off the betting market. So we thought we'd do things a little bit differently and do a few teams here that we have our eyes on going in and two players we have our eyes on going into this NFL draft. And Kenny, we're going to start with you. And as always, the draft, well, look, the draft may start at number 2 this year, and the Cleveland Browns, after what was a monster disappointing season for them, sit at number 2 here in the NFL draft.
And Cleveland needs everything, Jeff. And number 1 is going to be a quarterback because you worry about Deshaun Watson and where he's at. Been very injury prone the last couple of years after sitting out a couple of years. Getting up there in age, it just seems like he's not going to get back to being the quarterback he was. Joe Flacco is there. Kenny Pickett is there. Just no answers at quarterback. Shedeur Sanders is sitting, 8 to 10, I think, and maybe 8 to 12 in that range. Do they take a shot with a quarterback? I like Jackson Dart a lot. I think Jackson Dart may be the best quarterback of the 3, but the draft boards don't have him that high. Cleveland would be gambling. The Browns need offensive line help. They need a left tackle. They do need running back help. They need wide receiver help. They need help on the defensive line. So there's so many needs for this team. Where do you go? Travis Hunter is the best athlete in the entire draft. You can fill 2 concerns at the cornerback position and the wide receiver position with Travis Hunter. I think he can play two-way in the NFL. My other team I'm going to talk about, and I've got to bring them up right now because of this fact, the Dallas Cowboys. And everything I'm reading, Jerry Jones says we have so many picks. They got 9 picks in the draft.
Sure.
That we're not trading down. We're not trading up. We're going to trade down. If we're going to trade, it's going to be down. I don't trust Jerry Jones one bit. He's a politician, and he's going to lie, and he's going to say the opposite. The Dallas Cowboys should trade as many picks as they possibly can to get to the 2 spot and get Travis Hunter.
Oh,
he's the Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders played for the Cowboys. He was a two-way player, one of the best in the NFL. Jerry Jones is really close with Deion still, and he knows Deion's already been telling him, Jerry, this kid's the real deal. He's going to be an all-pro, one of the best that's ever played the game. You need to get him at all costs.
Wow.
So let's get Cowboys to buy down. Get the 2. They take Travis Hunter. The Browns now take 12th. They can now pick Jackson Dart. But I don't think I think the Cowboys are going to try to make another move, and they're going to try to get Shedeur and Hunter because they need the quarterback. Now they have signed Prescott to a 4-year deal, so they don't need the quarterback position as bad. But I think if they can make a deal because they have so many picks that they would love to have both guys.
We'll get a little more into this in a little bit on the Dallas end. We'll definitely continue that discussion in a second. On the Cleveland end of things, so right now, betting markets are betting the heck out of Travis Hunter to go number 2. Minus 450, whether it's Cleveland or it's someone else making the pick. Yesterday, the Browns held a press conference for their pre-draft stuff, and Andrew Berry was just gushing about Travis Hunter. That was actually earlier today. See, the days are merging together already. But Berry was just, he's top 2 corner, number 1 wide receiver on our board. Yeah,
He's a Hall of Famer.
If he can stay healthy,
You're right.
If he can stay on again, I still have my concerns of can a guy in this day and age in the NFL play both ways? I have my.
It'll be selective.
Not what if Travis wants to play 100 and 100, which won't end up happening. But I'm just curious here because we
remember the NFL's less plays. They have he have 60 offensive plays.
Well, there's no 110s anymore.
Right. I think his main focus will be as a corner, and then they'll use him maybe 30 to 40 plays again on the offensive end.
The one thing I will say from Cleveland's perspective, assuming that there's not any crazy trade here, and Alex, I'm curious your thoughts here. You have Myles Garrett now locked up. There is that whole hubbub during the offseason. I want out, demanded the trade. They didn't even meet, and then they give Garrett the giant contract. And I know our guy Sean has been bringing this up for a few months now. Do you consider, and I think it's very unlikely after the press conference this morning, but Abdul Carter's sitting there. Abdul Carter is as good of a pass rushing prospect as we've seen in the last 3-4 years in the NFL draft. You try to pair him up with Garrett and basically say, hey, guys, try and block us on the outside with Garrett, who to me is still the best defensive end in the NFL, and Carter, who has top 5 potential right away.
I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can pass up on Travis Hunter, right? And I think kind of what he was saying, that could have almost been making him more valuable if they do want more for him, right? And gushing about him and saying, oh, he's, the best corner and wide receiver that we have on our list. So I think that either they take him there or they trade and somebody else takes him there. What'd you say it was, minus 450?
Oh, now it's minus 500. It's moving as we're talking for Hunter to go number 2. So.
He's... To me, I'm taking him number 1. If I'm the Titans, I'm taking him. There's other quarterbacks that can try to make a trade. Cam Ward is not the answer, I don't think. I think Travis Hunter is a Hall of Fame player. And when you can get an athlete like that, he's a football player. You watch him play the game. He's got high IQ. He's got everything you want. The only thing he doesn't have, and it's because he's a young guy, he doesn't have the bulk and the strength yet that he's going to get. When this guy puts on 20 pounds of muscle, he's going to be just a beast. He's going to be the best player in the NFL.
Browns picking at 2. Again, a lot of needs for Cleveland, like you said, Kenny. And I'm just curious, again, do they do something? They're picking at the top of the second round. Are they one of those teams that, assuming they take Hunter at 2, do they trade back into round 1 to get the extra year for a Tyler Shuck potentially, who's been flying off draft boards, or if Dart falls far enough, do they move back into round 1 to get the extra year of control? That's what I'm most intrigued with outside of what likely sounds like at this point. I would be pretty surprised if they don't take Travis Hunter at number 2.
If they don't trade the pick, they're taking Travis Hunter. There's no doubt about it. If they trade the pick and they got to move a little further down, maybe they look for an offensive lineman like Will Campbell if they can get him. But he may be gone by the time if they do make a trade. No trade, Cleveland Brown fans, you're getting Travis Hunter. You're getting a Hall of Famer.
That's two high-end players on that defense, to say the very least. Garrett, who's going to, even with the craziness a few years ago, Garrett is going to probably get himself a bust in Canton one day as well. All right, let's go to the Las Vegas Raiders. Alex White, Raiders picking at number 6 overall.
Yes, so the Raiders are picking at 6. A lot of changes here for Las Vegas. Of course, Pete Carroll comes in. They sign our guy, Geno Smith. But they don't have a lot of weapons, right? So we know that they're looking for running backs. They're looking for wide receivers. They also have to focus on some of the defense here. No Devontae Adams. Jacoby Myers right now is their number 1. They need a true number 1. But really, it's the running back position that everybody is highlighting and think that they are going to go after Ashton Genty. Of course, they did sign Raheem Mostert from Miami to a 1-year deal. And it seems like Pete Carroll is kind of doing this on the defensive side too. Signed a 1-year deal with a couple of DBs, but need some more guys in these places. So this is just such a packed running back class. I think it'd be kind of crazy to take Ashton Genty at number 1 overall, even with his numbers and the power explosion, 88 broken tackles in 2024. Curious on you guys' thoughts with Hampton from North Carolina, 2 running backs from Ohio State. There's just a list of good guys. Even Scatabo they could get later on. So I know that's a huge position that they would like to fill, but I think they've got a lot more to worry about as well, especially, like I said, on the defensive side. Cornerbacks, linebackers, and even their own line, they could beef up here.
I think O-line is where, if I'm the Raiders, that's where I'm going. I'm going to try to beef up my O-line. I think that's the key to the game. The key to the NFL is win the game, win the trenches. And I think you start with the O-line is where you start with, because I think it's easier to build the D-line. I really do. It's really difficult to build those great offensive lines, and that's where I would go if I was the Raiders. I just mentioned Will Campbell. They can get him or the kid from Missouri.
That is on the list.
Yeah, they go after one of those two guys. They're going to be dominant offensive linemen.
So I'm going to throw a few things at both of you here with the Raiders. If I were running things, I would trade back. I would trade out of 6. I think there's, like you said, there's a lot of good running back depth. Hampton, it's very possible that Hampton has as good of a career as Genty does in the NFL. And look, I was banging the drum all year long that Ashton Genty should have won the Heisman Trophy over Travis Hunter. I love him. He's a great player, Genty, but we know you should not take a running back that high, especially in a class that is pretty darn deep.
Yeah.
And I'm with what what both of you have said here. And going into the last thing you said, one of the Raiders' biggest needs is right tackle.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Will Campbell can get past 4. And if he gets past the Patriots as 4, someone's trading the 5 with Jacksonville to get Will Campbell. I really do believe that. Membu profiles as a right tackle in the NFL to me. That's a perfect fit at 6 if you stay at 6.
Yeah.
Membu's plus 475 right now to be the 6th overall pick on DraftKings. I think that's worth a little bit of a flyer if you want to take that on the Raiders thing. If they don't take Membu or Genty, I have no idea what they're going to do. And that could bring into the weird scenario of a player we'll talk about a little bit later on the show if the Raiders do surprise us and decide to go quarterback to back up Geno Smith and learn behind Geno, even though that contract makes me think that they're committed to Geno at least for the next 3 years.
And there were so many rumors at first that it was Shedeur Sanders going to the Raiders.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know if that still is up in the air, and they could potentially do that.
Shedeur, by the way, is 18-1 on DraftKings to go 6. So that.
And then what's Genty?
Minus 115. He's your betting favorite. You're laying a price with Genty to go number 6.
Not as steep as I thought it would be, though. So I think that is open.
Going to the team that has the next pick, and that is the New York Jets, who have had an offseason of change. Aaron Rodgers gone. Obviously, a new coaching staff in place, new front office. Aaron Glenn, Morgie takes over the front office, and the Jets have been super, super tight-lipped on what they're doing here. And quite frankly, confusion to the market is not a bad thing for this Jet team that, for the first time since pre-Sam Darnold, the Jets will be starting a quarterback week 1 this year that is not being viewed as the franchise saver, because Sam Darnold was viewed as that. Zach Wilson was viewed as that. Aaron Rodgers was viewed as that. Justin Fields is not viewed as that. That is something that at least I'm going to keep in mind when we start talking win totals a little bit later in the summer. Right now, Armand Membu is the betting favorite to go number 7 at minus 115. The tackle out of Missouri, who we just mentioned with the Las Vegas Raiders. The Jets have a ton of needs, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They have no wide receiver depth. But I have a lot of concerns about Ted McMillan and the want to be an NFL player with stuff that has been said in the media by McMillan this offseason. I would not take him at 7, which leads me to the pipe dream that Kenny has mentioned multiple times. If Will Campbell is somehow on the board when the Jets are picking, that pick selection should take less than 30 seconds.
Yes.
They should be running their envelope up to the stage to get Will Campbell on their roster. I know that people complained about Will Campbell's arm length. That's nonsense. Will Campbell is the best offensive lineman in this draft by margin, and he's going to be a Pro Bowler, All-Pro for a 10 to 15-year career. Kid is a stud. Whoever ends up with him is getting an All-Pro. If it's not Campbell, I think the pick is going to be Tyler Warren at number 7 for the Jets. The Jets did not take Brock Bowers last year, if you remember. They took Fashanu, who is now their left tackle and looked pretty darn good as a rookie. I don't see them passing on a high-end tight end back-to-back years, even though I think Bowers is a better prospect than Warren. Warren is still an elite tight end prospect. He's 3-1. If it's not Will Campbell, I'll go with Tyler Warren going number 7, guys.
I'm thinking men do. I think they go offensive line.
Wouldn't shock me if they did that either.
Yeah, but it could be Warren for sure. One of those the biggest needs that the Jets have right now.
I like that Warren too, especially because the Raiders really did hit with Brock Bowers last year, even though they just took a tight end the year before. Definitely worked out for them. I think tight ends are just.
That was a great pick. You watch that guy at Georgia. He's on the most talented college football team, and he was the star of that team.
Exactly.
When you're the best player on the best team, you know that's a no-brainer to pick that guy.
But Warren is there's a gap between him and the next tight end, I think, in this draft too. Yes. It's not like the running backs that are a little bit tighter.
Well, the next tight end, if the Jets don't take Warren, the Jets pick at 42. There's a big question if the Bowling Green product of Harold Fannin Jr. gets there at the 42. Everyone on this desk watched enough MAC football to know that kid was the best player in the MAC last year, and it really wasn't even close. And he could be a great NFL tight end, but Warren is a special talent. I would be, if the Jets don't go O-line, Warren, to me, has to be the pick there at number 7. All right, we go to the NFC side of things. I'm very curious as everyone's thoughts on this, because the New York Giants are sitting at number 3. They bring in 2 veteran quarterbacks in the offseason, and Russell Wilson, who will be the starter, and Jameis Winston's on a backup deal. But I have no idea what the proper move was going to be for the Giants. I thought that, Travis Hunter's going to fall in their lap at 3. You don't pass on him. Like Kenny said, generational talent. But, guys, I need some help here. I don't know what I would do at number 3 if I'm the Giants. If right now, the betting market says Abdul Carter is a $4 favorite to go number 3. Yeah, you put him on the other side of Thibodeau. You could have yourself a nice little highly drafted elite tandem. Carter, I think, is the safe pick here at 3.
Yeah.
But do they do something off the board here? Do they take a quarterback at 3? Do they trade out? I'm very curious to see what your guys' thoughts are on the Giants here at number 3.
I don't think they take a quarterback at 3. And I know that there is a lot of rumors now because they got to do a private workout with Shedeur Sanders. Also did one, though, with Tyler Shuck. And I believe it was Jackson Dart.
Yeah, they did all of them. Yep.
Those 3. So maybe they are planning to trade out, kind of like you were saying with Cleveland, but instead the Giants going back to take Dart later on and at the 11-12 spot or something. So that would be my initial thought, but I think Carter too. Why not? Right? You have 2 veteran guys right there, and they're going to start Russell Wilson. Of course they want their quarterback there to learn from him, but if it's not, they aren't going to force it. And
one more note too, Brian Burns, of course, signed a big contract last offseason, had a little bit of Giants had a horrible year across the board, but I'm just curious, too, like you just mentioned all those quarterbacks. I said this with Cleveland. Maybe the Giants are another team that trades back into the end of round 1 if a Shuck or a Dart falls and you get the extra year of control. Again, to me, this is such an interesting draft across the board. It's been clear number 1 for a while. It's getting clearer at number 2 at Hunter. Even though the market says it's pretty darn clear with Carter at 3, I don't think it's that clear that the Giants are going to take Carter at number 3, Kenny. I really don't.
He's the most logical choice, but you're right. If they trade down, they may be able to get a quarterback, and they may not get laughed at. Teams are afraid to get laughed at. They're afraid to pick Shedeur Sanders at number 3 or Jalen Miller at number 3 because of the fact that everybody will be like that. They made the wrong pick. Their fans will be upset. All the mock drafts are saying take Abdul Carter. So that's the safe pick for them. He's going to be a great player. He's going to be a great edge rusher. You mentioned Thibodeau on one side, Carter on the other. They can really pressure the other team. They can force their opponents into mistakes because they've got those 2 great pass rushers. A trade would probably be the best thing for the Giants. They need a quarterback, but maybe they don't because. I don't know if they're going to draft a guy for Justin Fields to groom him. Justin Fields is still trying to figure the league out. Even Jameis Winston is all over the place still. He's got talent. I think they picked their 2 quarterbacks. I think the Giants will probably stand still. I'm not going out on the limb. It's -$4 that they pick Carter with the 3 pick. So I think that's who they probably end up selecting.
Yeah, but don't forget the Falcons last year.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Surprised everybody and kind of did get laughed at, but looks like
They
Michael Penix Jr. was a
seemed to make the right move because I don't think any of us expected Cousins to be as washed up as he ended up being, even though they're both still on the roster. When push comes to shove, I do think Carter ends up being the pick at number 3. But boy, the Giants could benefit from trading down, getting some more assets. They ended up with a Brandon Graham, a Mason Graham, or another one of those pass rushers later in the top 10 if they traded down. May not be a bad thing, but again, Carter is such a stud that it is hard to pass on him. 49ers, Alex, been a tumultuous offseason for San Francisco, picking at number 11 here in this draft. Obviously, last year did not go as planned. A totally different looking team now with all the moves they had to make this offseason, including shipping Deebo Samuel out of town. I'm curious, what do you think we get with the Niners here picking at number 11?
It is much different, right? The year before, second to last pick, of course, played in the Super Bowl, and now they're here at 11. They also have 11 picks, so they're tied for the most. They're going to try and really hit every position here, starting with their defense, though, defensive line, edge, cornerbacks, and then looking at their offensive line and another running back because they do need a backup to McCaffrey. So at that 11 spot, it is really tough, but I mean, I think when you're bringing in Robert Saleh to help run your defense, I think their first few picks are really going to hone in on the defensive side. And there's a couple that were named, and Shemar Stewart was one of them, Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I just really think round 1 and 2 will probably be focused on the defensive side for the Niners, who, I mean, they still have to sign Brock Purdy, but they're pretty set. And we know Shanahan is an offensive guru. So I don't think they're so concerned with that side, right? That'll kind of fall together, even though definitely are going to need another wide receiver here too. But yeah, I think it'll be defense for the Niners.
Real quick, Kenny, before you hop in, DraftKings has position of first player drafted for every team out there. Offensive lines plus 150, the favorite for the Niners.
Nice.
Plus 200 on the defensive line and defensive end. Corner at plus 260, and then it falls off a cliff at that. So it's realistically one of those 3, O-line, D-line, or corner for San Francisco based off the betting markets.
I like it.
They need some help defensively.
Yeah.
I think that's where they have to go. They do have some start. I mean, the 49ers, what a big letdown for me this past year because they were the most talented team of any team, both sides of the football. And I knew it was going to be pressure on Brock Purdy, but he showed he could play to the pressure the year before that. But he had a little bit of a down year. But they get healthy, they are going to be tough. Mason Harmon from Oregon is a guy I wrote down for them, just doing a little work last night that on the defensive line. He's a disruptor, can stop the run. He's just a really, really athletic guy for a big guy. So that's who I thought they may go after.
Kind of like you were saying, though, with Myles Garrett, I think they need to find somebody on the opposite side of Nick Bosa.
Wouldn't hurt. You go a few different ways here if you wanted. You could go with Walker on the outside from Georgia. There are ways to go.
Yeah.
I would very much, since they lost Ward, one of their better corners in the offseason, if Will Johnson somehow falls to them, I would take Will Johnson. There's not a lot of corner need in the top 10 this year. If there was a team with a corner need, Will Johnson would again, still could go in the top 8 pretty easily. Even to me, going into last year, I thought he was the best player in college football going into last year. So I would very happily, if I were San Francisco, if he somehow falls in my lap at 11, I would take him.
Can you find anything on him to be drafted after 10?
Yes, I can.
Because it seems like that would probably be a.
Yeah, I just gotta grab this real quick and go into the old search thing. Oh, there's nothing on him on DK. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I would top 10. He's plus 195, so would be a nice little price for the over 9.5 on that if you can find it. All right, Kenny, you already brought up your Dallas theory earlier. If the craziness does not prevail and the Cowboys don't move up, you mentioned that Jerry said looking to move down at anything. What's the strategy here for the Cowboys, who obviously are coming off of a funky year? Prescott got hurt again. Mike McCarthy's gone. Brian Schottenheimer's now the first-time head coach, which good on you, Jerry. Whatever floats your boat on that. But what would you do here for Dallas, who, again, holds a ton of picks in the back end of this draft?
Yeah, they really do. And I think they'll be able to, fill in their spots on the offensive line and defensive line with some of those later picks. I think they're looking for somebody to be across the side of the field from CeeDee Lamb. So a wide receiver is a big need for this team right now. If they can get a guy that, can complement CD, it would be the kid out of Arizona, McMillan. Great size, big receiver, kind of guy you can throw the ball up in the end zone, touchdown in the corners, and rely on him to out-jump the secondary. So McMillan was a standout for Arizona. He was one of the better players in the Big 12 conference this year. I think he fits perfect right there at 12, right where the Cowboys are picking. There's talk about them trading the pick and, moving into the early 20s in that slot. And I think if that happens, they may look for a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman at that point.
I'll just ask you this just for an off season and really just a draft ahead. And then we really can go into looking at numbers and all that fun jazz. Again, some books have some win totals up already for this year. And obviously the futures have been up for a while. I think the gap at this point from Philadelphia to everybody else in the NFC is fairly large. I know that doesn't come as a hot take. Team just steamrolled through to a Super Bowl title. And then the bigger problem for Dallas is that the Commanders improved their roster after a surprising NFC championship game appearance. The Cowboys are the third banana in the division. It's been a while since they've been the third banana in the division. And in an NFC that, look, the NFC North is still going to be really good. The NFC South, all right, they'll get their representative, but who knows? Maybe Atlanta and Tampa take steps forward. Maybe even with Bryce Young's huge improvement down the stretch. Maybe even Carolina with a last place schedule shows some improvement this year. It's going to be really hard, even with a good draft, I think, for Dallas to realistically take a step back to where they've been in the previous years before this calamity of the 24 season.
Yeah, that they've got, I think, too many needs to become that team. But signing Prescott made him happy. They still do have a lot of talent around him, and the quarterback's the biggest difference maker. You keep Prescott healthy all year, and the Cowboys could have a decent season. I have one other scenario. If you believe Jerry Jones and that they are going to trade down, they may be looking for a defensive lineman. As I just looked, you said DraftKings has position by team, and defensive line for the Cowboys is plus 550. Ooh. And I think they could go in that direction for a defensive lineman if they trade down. If they stay where they're at, I really believe they take the wide receiver from Arizona if he's there, and I think he'll be there.
Yep. Yeah. Plus 110, by the way, on wide receiver to be the Cowboys' first selection.
Yeah. I feel like he's going to be like Mike Evans with the size and taller.
He does remind me a little bit of Mike Evans.
I saw Drake London too, maybe comparison. But
if he has half the career Mike Evans has, Dallas will have done very well if Ted McMillan ends up being the dude. Mike Evans gonna walk into Canton in 5 years after he maybe not 5 years, but at least 7 or 7 or 8 years after he retires. The most underratedly great player of this era, Mike Evans. Gets it done. All right.
One more thing about Dallas really quick, because I said it so many times last year. I'm surprised I just remembered this. They need a running back.
Yes, they do.
And this draft is so deep in running backs that, I just always have said, I think running backs are a dime a dozen. And I don't think it's a position you spend money on because they're 200 pounds and they're taking hits from guys that are 300 pounds on the D line. And then they get hit by a 260 pound linebacker that benches 475. Their careers are so short that you don't want to invest money in that. I've seen so many NFL teams have a guy that they sign as a free agent and he ends up starting at running back for teams because there's so many guys out there that can play running back. There really is. Everybody wants to play running back in Pop Warner. Everybody wants to play running back in high school. Everybody wants to play running back, so there are a lot of really talented running backs. The size is easier. There's more guys in this world 6 foot, 190, 200 pounds than there are guys that are 6'4", 300 pounds. Way more. The pool of talent you're picking from at a running back is gigantic.
Yeah.
Where the pool of the talent you're picking at a defensive line and offensive line is so small.
Yep. Very good point.
Want to bring up Shedeur Sanders before we get the whiteboards here on an extended Thursday version. So Shedeur Sanders right now, if we're just looking at props here, Shedeur Sanders is minus 250 to be the second quarterback selected, which, again, we told you how big of a favorite Cam Ward is, minus 20,000 to go number one overall. The interesting thing on this board here for Sanders, so last week, and this kind of just came out of nowhere, the weird report that Derek Carr might miss the whole season with that mystery shoulder injury, which then brings New Orleans into the equation here, and the market played it like that. New Orleans is now plus 175 at DraftKings to be the landing spot for Shedeur. Giants at plus 270, Pittsburgh at plus 350, Cleveland 6-1, Jets at 16-1, and the Raiders 17-1. Rams are on there at 20-1. I don't foresee that happening at all, unless if Sanders has some precipitous drop. Of all the guys in this draft, he's the most polarizing figure. Because of, look, you watched him in Colorado, you know what Dion is all about, you know this Shedeur is his son. Of course, he's going to be polarizing, going to the next level. I like him as an NFL quarterback. Now, the few critiques that are valid, holds onto the ball too long, 100%. Now, wonder how much of that is that the offensive line at Colorado, especially year one, was horrible.
Yes, that's
true. They
true.
were better last year, but still were probably a bottom half offensive line in college football a year ago.
Right.
I just, when this is all said and done, the Saints being the betting favorite is right. And I just wonder, will it be at the actual Saints position where they're picking right now at number 9? Or does this end up being that New Orleans ends up trading up, whether it's to Jacksonville at 5 or with the Raiders at 6? To make sure that they get their guy in Sanders, because let's be real, Derek Carr's probably, if Derek Carr's as hurt as the reports say, it's very possible Derek Carr's played his last game as a New Orleans Saint.
It's really interesting. I heard a New Orleans beat writer, though, say they are not taking a quarterback, so I don't really know.
It's interesting. That's why this is a confusing player to figure out here.
I think if Nick Saban didn't retire, and he stayed at Alabama, Jalen Milroe would be the first pick in the draft. And people, I think, are missing out on him that aren't looking at him. I think the Saints would be a great fit for Jalen Milroe. He is going to be another Jalen Hurts.
I like Jalen Milroe. I agree with that, too.
He may be better than Jalen Hurts.
I just don't think it works.
Who doesn't want a guy that's better than Jalen Hurts? He ran a 4.3 at the combine. He's 235 pounds. He's got a cannon for an arm, and his accuracy jumped up his junior year. Now with the coaching change, it was a different voice. It was some different philosophies. Alabama just didn't gel. I think if it was Nick Saban and things were normal, Alabama wins the national title last year. Jalen Milroe wins the Heisman Trophy, and Jalen Milroe would be the first pick in the draft. I think he's going to be one of the better guys out of this draft.
Him and Jackson Dart are kind of sneaking back there with the other two, but I do think Cam Ward's
a really good quarterback, but
it's like Jaden Daniels, though. I mean, his offense had to do so much because the defense was so bad. So let's give him a shot in the NFL.
If we're just going through all the quarterbacks here, just throw them into the thing. Again, I have Shedeur as my top rated guy. I don't buy Cam Ward. Like he's going number one. We know this. There's too many things. Like, he's an undrafted guy.
Yeah.
If he went out of Wazoo 2 years ago, and now after 1 year where, he put up a lot of good numbers.
Yeah.
We're really moving him from in the 200s all the way up to number 1, and he holds the ball too long. Like, there are a lot of things with Ward that I'm a little bit scared of at the NFL level. And the same reason that there's fears about Shedeur as well, especially with the holding of the ball. Dart's the lotto ticket, right? He's the lottery ticket.
Yeah.
It's either going to end up with a scratch off of $0, and you're like, why did I waste my money on this? Or you're gonna say, oh my God, I won six figures on a scratch off ticket. And Dart's going to end up being a super talented high end player in this draft. Milroe, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum on Milroe from you guys. I just have too many concerns about how he throws the football. He is an unbelievable athlete. He is unbelievably fast. His legs are awesome. That regression, and I understand what you're saying, Kenny, with like, hey, if there was continuity, maybe he would have been a little bit better. Kalen DeBoer is, to me, the best offensive coach in college football, especially look at what he did in Washington. I mean, he made the national championship at the University of Washington in 2024. That's hard to do in that spot. But I have my concerns about Milroe. And then the last guy that I will say I want to bring up, and I just because he's a name that we're all familiar with, someone's going to get a really good backup quarterback in Dylan Gabriel when they take him later in the draft. Now, I'm not saying bet Dylan Gabriel or anything like that. The dude just knows how to play football. And he's tiny. I understand it. But if you're taking Dylan Gabriel around 5, like, what? There's no risk.
Yeah.
And he ends up being a good NFL backup. That's great out of your 5th round pick. But again, it's Cam Ward's deal right now. You're laying minus 20,000 on Cam Ward to be the first overall pick right now.
You know, I'm still in the philosophy of the NFL of bigger is better at quarterback. And
course.
Gabriel's a little bit on the smaller size. You know, I didn't like Bryce Young because the fact that he's a smaller guy with small hands, and that never has worked out. It's you know, you got to be completely special to be the guy. Where we're talking about, I agree with you on the Cam Ward. I'm going Jalen Milroe 1. I'm going Jackson Dart 2, and then Shedeur. I'll put Shedeur 2. I'll go Shedeur 2, Jackson Dart 3, and then Cam Ward 4 is kind of the way that I've got these guys listed. And those guys are all big. They're all big and strong. None of them's huge in stature. They're all about 6'2". I'd rather have a guy that's 6'3", 6'4". I would be all over that guy if we in a taller quarterback. They just got better vision. They can see over the line better, but this game has changed. The NFL game has changed now to dual threat quarterbacks, and that's why I like Milroe, because he is going to be a difference maker with that 4.3 speed.
What about the guy that won a national championship last year with the Buckeyes in Will Howard?
Yeah, he's a good quarterback. He's going to get drafted. Yeah, he's going to be. I think he's probably a 3rd rounder, maybe somewhere in there, I guess.
Someone, he will get drafted.
Yeah.
I mean, he could be back end day 2, like you just said, for round 3. Not impossible.
Whatever happened to the Georgia quarterback who won 2 national championships?
What, Stetson Bennett?
Yeah. I mean, didn't he get drafted?
He's still on the Rams, isn't he?
He got drafted, right?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's still in the league.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. I think he's the backup, at least for the time being.
It's not bad.
Yeah, not today. Look, good existence, right?
But that's Will Howard's going to get a shot, and he's a little bigger of a quarterback. You know, he's a bigger quarterback, so
it's pretty funny.
And he can run.
You know, it's pretty funny. A name we did not mention at all, Quinn Ewers.
Yep, I was just
kind of
thinking
just
that
is
too.
like, hey,
True.
Like again, I never thought Ewers was an NFL quarterback to begin with, but the NFL people have clearly agreed with that.
Yeah.
He's just basically torpedoed backwards down the draft board. By the way, one quick question: Dean Hill asked if Brady Cook out of Mizzou could be an NFL quarterback. I think his ceiling is a backup. I would be surprised if he even gets drafted, even with his good combine, because he had a super good combine this year. Great, underratedly good college quarterback at Missouri, but I don't see him being I don't see it. I don't see
another guy with that,
small.
Yeah, not gigantic, 6'2", 214. A lot of experience, 39 career starts in college football, but he was never an extremely accurate quarterback. 65%, that's really good, but I'd like to see
you want
70%, 70 coming out of college. I want to see.
Hi everyone, I'm Jeff Parles.
And I'm Alex White. Thank you for watching this clip of Sports by the Book. Please like the video, comment, and subscribe.
We live stream the show right here every day on this channel. Also, you can catch the podcast version on your favorite podcast platform.
All the links are in the description below. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.